And there are higher things than logic. This is what Ghazali is talking about in his biography. He's saying, look, there are things that are higher than formal logic. And this is how we know God. This is how we know we have certainty. And he's referring to intuition. He's talking about the fitra. He's talking about direct experience, etc. Muslims have to reconnect with this, because when they do, they will reach certainty. They'll have more confidence, and the world will know it. The world around you will know it. Like, if you try to convince me I'm wrong, man, you better bring an army of logicians with you, because even then you can't. Once you're upon the fitra, once you understand the concept of the fitra, you know everybody else is just guessing. They're just doing their best to guess what happened 1,000 years ago, what happened, what he said, what she said. They're trying to figure it out, and none of them are perfect at it, and they're doing their best. Okay, but the fitra is certain, so you can go to your grave with certainty. And this is the beauty of Islam. In the Quran it says, "No, your God." No, it doesn't say believe. It says believe also, but there's a point where it says no, because there are levels of faith. There are levels of faith. Okay, so for me, when Dawkins comes out with a new book, I'm not worried. I'm not the least bit worried, because for me, he sounds like a dummy. And I don't mean that. I don't want to be name calling. I shouldn't say that. I should say, for me, it doesn't. So arguments are not compelling. Honestly, his arguments are not compelling in the least. One, he makes gross philosophical errors. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. And it's funny, because in the Peterson hijab video, Peterson makes the same one. He says, look, if you're going to go to the unmoved mover or prime mover, there's a causal chain. There had to be one start to the chain, and that chain can't have a cause itself, because then you'd have infinite regress. And Peterson asks him, he says, well, by saying God, aren't you just moving it up one notch?
Yeah.
Well, that defies the definition of God. By definition, God doesn't have a start. He's uncaused. This is a philosophical error, a very well-known one that Dawkins did, and Peterson seems to be doing it also. So hijab gently, corrected him, as he should. But by definition, God is not contingent. God is necessarily true by definition. It's analytically true. Contingent means something else had to bring it about. This computer I'm talking on is contingent. It was caused. It had a time and date where it was created. It depended on something else. I depended on my parents' meeting for my creation, for my existence. I'm a contingent thing. I'm not true by necessity. So, Dawkins did that famously when we were having a discussion with John Lennox, a philosopher, I think, from Cambridge. He was saying, look, I hope you're not referring to the God of Abraham here, because the God of Abraham, by definition, is uncaused. That's the whole point of Abrahamic religions. We're saying they're not a byproduct of two gods getting together.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I love the internet, because now we can have fascinating discussions about people having fascinating discussions. And this is what we need to do. And this is the way to
have the natural selection of ideas.
To have the natural selection of ideas. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
To get to know each other. To, the Quran says God made us different for us to get to know one another, to convince one another, to compel one another, to, what's a great, I always tell my students, the two greatest feelings in the world is learning something and teaching somebody something. It's such a great pleasure to learn something. I always love when somebody teaches me something. I feel like I owe them a debt. And when I teach somebody, I hope that whatever I taught them made them feel good. I hope they're happy. I hope it made them feel like they've improved. They've grown as a person. And it's such a great feeling. No amount of money in the bank can give you that feeling. You feel like you've expanded your mind, and it's an intrinsic feeling you can't describe. I think the internet is doing that for so many people at such a great rate, and I think it's such a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
And I really thank Muhammad Hijab and Peterson for having that discussion.